You know how important your culture is to success, and you know that becoming even more systematic about it is going to pay big dividends. But let's be honest, who's got time to do that? We're in the middle of rolling out our new ERP system, and we're hiring a new service manager, and we're launching the new sales and marketing initiative next quarter. With everything else on our plate, I can't even imagine asking our people to take on one more project. Sound familiar? Yeah, we hear that all the time, and it's an absolutely legitimate concern. So how much time and effort does this really take? Both to get the program up and running and also to keep it going. Understanding that more clearly will help you make a good decision about how and where to prioritize your culture work. And so that's our topic for this video. I'll divide our discussion into 3 parts. First, let's look at the time commitment necessary to implement a culture operating system like CultureWise. Second, let's talk about, well, what does it take on an ongoing basis? And third, let's explore this question of prioritization. For the sake of this discussion, I'll assume that we're talking about the custom version of CultureWise, since the standard version is even faster and less time-consuming. The first step in the process is a meeting with your leadership team to brainstorm your behaviors, or as we call them, fundamentals. This is typically about a 3-hour meeting. Following that meeting, we're going to write your fundamentals, and then we're going to work together to create successive drafts based on your feedback until we get it to a final version. Your only job here is to provide feedback. Your total time investment in this process is typically no more than maybe 2 or 3 hours spread over a number of phone calls. During those calls, we'll also talk about the rituals that you'll be practicing each week, and we'll start to plan the rollout to your organization. The logistics of rollout planning will usually be done with your HR staff or admin team, and really shouldn't require more than maybe 1 or 2 hours of their time, and nearly none of yours. The rollout itself is a 3-hour event that all employees are going to attend. Once that rollout's complete, you're ready to start practicing your fundamentals. So let's add up the total time. We had 3 hours for that initial meeting. We had maybe 2 or 3 hours of feedback and planning calls. We had 1 or 2 hours for your admin team and 1 3-hour rollout meeting. That's a total of maybe 8 or 9 hours of your time spread over maybe a 60-day period. For your leadership team, it was about 6 or 7 total hours. And for your staff, it required only 1 3-hour meeting. That's it. As a side note, in the standard version of CultureWise, the time required is even less because the fundamentals are selected from a pre-existing menu of choices, which eliminates some of that brainstorming and feedback time that would otherwise be necessary. So now let's look at the time commitment on an ongoing basis. One person in your company is going to write a weekly message with their thoughts about the fundamental of the week. So that person, and only that person, may spend up to maybe an hour on this. For everybody else, it'll look something like this. Reading the weekly insight and maybe contributing a comment to it, 5 minutes a week. Reading the daily quick tips, probably 1 minute a day. Sending a kudo to a teammate to acknowledge their contribution, 2 or 3 minutes a week. Answering a weekly e-minder lesson, no more than 2 minutes a week. Maybe watching one of the video tutorials on the fundamental of the week, 1 minute. So that's a total of maybe 15 to 20 minutes max per week, spread throughout the entire week, or about 3 or 4 minutes per day. That's not a very big burden that you're placing on your people. To be fair, they're also likely to be talking about your fundamental of the week at the beginning of meetings. But remember, these are meetings they're already sitting in, so there's no additional time required at all. So again, we're adding 3 to 4 minutes a day to their current workload. Given the impact that this is going to have, that's not a big ask. Okay, I hear you. So it doesn't take as much time as maybe I thought it would. But there's still only so much management focus to go around. And we do have all these other initiatives that we're trying to tackle. So how can I squeeze this in? I think there's 2 things to consider here. The first is that a high-performing culture is the foundation upon which every other initiative you take on will be built. Patrick Lencioni in his book, The Advantage, talks about the multiplier effect of culture. Implementing that ERP system is going to go so much more smoothly and effectively when everybody's working together as a team and they're functioning as a finely tuned unit. And what drives that? You got it, your culture. So working on your culture isn't an extra initiative, it's the platform upon which your other initiatives will rest. I sometimes hear people say, we're definitely committed to this. We're just waiting for things to slow down a bit. Well, let me ask you something. When was the last time things slowed down? I know they haven't in my business. That's never going to happen. And if it does, you should probably be pretty worried. One of the essential roles of leadership is to be scanning the horizon to identify the threats and opportunities that could significantly impact your business, and more importantly, to be addressing them now instead of waiting for them to hit. You see, everybody else in your company is working hard with their head down, consumed by the day-to-day challenges of operating your business. They're not thinking about the future. That's your job. Working on your culture is almost never urgent, but it's absolutely important. It's our job as leaders to insist that we carve out some space to work on those things that can literally be game-changing, but aren't necessarily pressing. There's an old proverb about planting a forest that goes something like this. When's the best time to plant a tree? 100 years ago. When's the second best time? Now. Well, the same can be said of working on our culture. The best time was years ago. The second best time is now.